the moment that everybody's been waiting for, Chris, our season preview series is here. We're going to be going team by team through the entirety of the NBA, starting from the bottom, because we're big Drake guys, and we're just going to break it down. We're going to go most important player. We're going to go player we'll be talking about by the end of the season. Is that the same as breakout? Was that just us trying to get cute and not call it a breakout player?
I this for me when I pitch this to you as a thing, it's just I want to stake our claim on like the basketball hipster person is going to be like loving this guy. That's
so this is like the all just basketball preseason like watch team, like how the NFL that like was it like the AP does one or whatever it is like no, that's college basketball that they do that for, right? Like the guys to keep an eye on. So okay, that's our version of that. So
but
most
not
important
like
player.
Yeah. But it's
player
like
to watch.
And that again, I think like this is not maybe the best example of that because like at least my pick for this team is a little bit like I think already kind of an NBA Twitter.
Oh, I have a hipster one. Don't worry, I got you covered.
Okay, cool.
Best lineup.
Jetty Osman. Yeah, I get it.
It's not Jetty Osman. Best lineup. We're going to go best case scenario and worst case scenario, but in detail, not just like 26 wins or 30 wins. We're going to talk through what each would look like, and then we're going to go over or under. As soon as our friends at BetMGM get some win totals up, we'll use theirs. In the meantime, we're going to use unnamed Sportsbook X odds for season-long win totals and tell you whether we think they're going to go over or they're going to go under that total. So, kick us off with most important player, Chris. This is just really, really, really hard to tell where we're going to go here. But give it to the people.
It's Victor Wembanyama. Like this season, this era of the Spurs, it's about Victor Wembanyama. This season is about getting him his footing in the NBA. It's about setting him up on a path to success. It's about building good habits. It's about giving him good infrastructure. It's about getting him acclimated to more frequent gameplay, more physical gameplay, a higher level of basketball than he's played before. It's about letting this kid who is a potential uber star, who we've gotten hyperbolic about, maybe not us per se, but a lot of people have gotten hyperbolic about, him on the right foot in the NBA. And this season is not for me, it's about him in every single aspect. It's not about like necessarily what kind of experience you can get him in terms of playoffs or anything like that, but it's about making sure his first year is a success and making sure that when you go to year two and maybe you do want to take a step forward, you are in a position to understand what he is, what he isn't, and how you best need to support him going forward.
Agree completely. I think I watched 2 of their games this week. Wife's out of town, had some free time, did a deep dive on the Spurs. Would not recommend. They uniquely needed him, especially after Pirtle. This team has no size. And I think that actually will continue to hurt them this year. Zach Collins is not a rim protector. He never made good on his defensive potential from Gonzaga. That's just not what he is. But they needed rim protection. They needed an interior presence. They needed somebody who could just convert easy dunks and layups around the basket on offense. And then obviously defensively just to block shots and provide any sort of resistance at the basket. So I think he despite what might be a rocky rookie season because of the health questions, because of the skill development and everything else, as we saw at Summer League, he's going to make them better. Like, they may not win a ton more games, but they're going to be a realer NBA team because of him, even as a rookie. I feel comfortable saying that.
Yeah, and I to your point, I do think it would make sense for them. They haven't done it already, but you can go get a center just to play next to him and eat fouls and absorb physicality. Like, the Thunder arguably should like do this as well, but like you could go get Bismack Biyombo, who is still.
I don't think they need to go get anybody. I think they'll play Collins. They have Kem Birch on this roster. I don't even remember how. Just I'm looking at the roster, and the page I'm looking at is telling me Kem Birch is on the Spurs. It may or may not be true. Charles Bassey, who they have, like. I think they have the guys, but I agree with you. They'll play them next to him. Like there will be offensive possessions where he's in the dunker spot or standing in the corner and not very involved, and that's fine.
He should just be kept away from getting destroyed his rookie year. It's something Cleveland did with Evan Mobley, who came to the league kind of lean as well. It's something I in different ways, even and they're a little further ahead. But I think Oklahoma City is going to do that with Chet. It doesn't like as much as we talk about guys like Victor Wembanyama or all these other leaner centers, or even Jaren, in Memphis when he was coming in, we think about these guys as their future is the 5. But when you hear guys talk about it, when you hear coaches talk about it, when you ask about it, you watch the games, like centers do take a different kind of lumps than 4s do. And if you're going to save some of the tread on Wembanyama and you want to help him figure everything else out and stay healthy and maximize his year, I think those are minutes well spent. Even if you're ostensibly a little bit worse in those minutes or it feels tighter in some ways, I think that's worth it. I really do.
Yeah. Probably no better example than like Anthony Davis, right? Same type of thing. Yeah, I'm looking ahead to your best lineup here, Chris, and it seems like you're disagreeing with yourself a little bit. So
the heart wants what the heart wants. Can you believe who I put at point guard in that lineup, though? We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it. I mean, that there is a big conversation, I think, around Vic as well with the decision and it is a decision. Like I guess I was frustrated by the Spurs the more that I thought about them as a team as well, for the decision to not add more playmaking to this roster, especially when you have somebody like Wembanyama on this team. It doesn't have to be Fred VanVleet, but they didn't even try a half measure, and that does bum me out as far as what types of lineups they'll be able to put out there, just the overall upside of the team, what he can do around the basket. There's going to be a lot of games where his paint touches, his paint scoring comes by way of his own post-ups or offensive rebounds, and that just not what I would have done. But he's also not a supernatural rim roller. He doesn't really play that way in France, so maybe they just want him to kind of learn that overall too. So I cheated a little bit for most important player. I knew we were going to talk about Vic, so I did somebody else so that would free me up for a different preseason watch list dude. So I went with Vassell for most important player, because I think this guy has all-star potential.
Yeah.
This is the next Mikal Bridges, and he has the skill set to be better than Mikal Bridges.
So 6 first-round picks?
Yeah. I think Devin Vassell is an incredibly good basketball player. He is the type of guy where when you watched him, even in the mess of whatever San Antonio was doing, they don't play their guys a ton of games, so every night it's a different lineup. He was in and out of the lineup himself. Everybody was young, not a lot of good players on this team, and he jumps out despite all of that on both ends of the court. Like, he just is good. There's no caveats to that. High-level shooter from 3 and mid-range already, on the move, pull up, catch and shoot, whatever context, he is a killer shot maker already. And last year, he's at 4.2 assists to just 1.7 turnovers per 36 minutes. That doesn't even feel like it. That feels like it should be like 3 years from now. That development for him, considering he was like one of these Florida State alien wings when he was coming out. Like he was supposed to be the same as not Jonathan Isaac because they're different players, but that was the billing, right? And now he's already making the right play, setting guys up, making skip passes to the corner, and hitting the roller and all this different type of stuff. To me, Devin Vassell is a flat-out, legit good player just hiding in plain sight on this bad team. And he will break out. It's just a matter of when.
He's my answer for a player we'll be talking about at the end of the season. I think he's probably their best non-Victor Wembanyama case for future All-Star at this point. Everything he said about this game is true, and I think there's going to be at some point someone is going to write a piece of how did this guy fall to 11 in the 2020 draft? I understand that's the COVID draft. I understand everything about this was weird. But if you look at the guys picked ahead of him in that draft, you could make a case he's going third, going fourth. He is absolutely someone that should have gone higher in this draft. And maybe they look at him at 6'5" and a little skinny when he came in and all that stuff and got a little scared. But the dude's just a legitimate two-way player whose offensive ceiling we're learning that it's higher and higher and higher every single year. And this is someone that if you think about what Wembanyama is going to be and kind of needs to carry him forward a little bit, I think this is the right kind of player to really help get Vic going. We should note last year only played 38 games.
Yeah.
I understand they were bad. Maybe he plays otherwise. So some of his numbers from last year, I think you do have to look at and say, okay, can we see this over 75 games this year instead of just 38. I think there's that to me is very fair. So that's part of this for me as well. Like, does he stay healthy all year and put up, roughly the same numbers, if not a little bit better numbers than he did last year in his limited games to really validate what we're seeing?
He's going to. I just feel like super confident saying that.
I do too.
Not that it's not a
I
question.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, you have to prove it. I'm not trying to get ahead of ourselves, but that's the thing of just how nothing he's doing is a fluke, right? Like none of how he's getting those numbers is some sort of accident. And I think the low turnovers and the efficiency, that's where you kind of need to look. I think to me defensively is a question because he's a little hunched. He kind of, his posture, his fluidity of motion, all that stuff is not super athletic in how he moves around the basketball court. And to be a lockdown defensive one-on-one player, he will need to grow into more of a physical, swarming, mobile defensive player. Right now, he's an excellent team defender because he's long, he knows where to be, he blows stuff up. But if he's going to be a stopper, that evolution has to come too. I think that's the thing I would be saying I'm watching this year.
Yeah, and I think for him it's going to be more point of attack than it is like apex wing scores because he is 6'5". Like this isn't
and thin, like you said, not super thin, but he's thinner. Yeah.
No, but he doesn't Jake Stevens can potentially hit him with the belt for this, but if you wanted to make the case for Okoro over him in that draft, and Okoro goes 5, Vassell goes 11, and one of them is clearly a much better player than the other at this point. I think the case for Isaac Okoro was the guy is just has a NBA body and is strong as hell and is built, and Vassell is a little thin and he's susceptible, I think, to being bullied in a way that Okoro isn't, and I think that does have value. That is a thing where it's if he's defending,
functional strength is to me the number one value thing you can have as a defender.
Yeah, and it's if you're San Antonio, and look, they're not at the stage yet, but if you're talking about him defending your Tatums, your Jaylen Browns, your bigger guards like an Ant in that kind of guy, or a Donovan Mitchell or Devin Booker. He's going to have, I think, he has to prove that I think he can handle the absorption of that. The benefit for him, of course, that now is Victor Wembanyama playing behind him to help cover some of that up. But if he's going to maximize, if he's going to help support Victor Wembanyama as best he can, I do think there is a step up he can take defensively. And if you look at the other guys they have on the perimeter, there is Keldon Johnson. But, what is Branham? What is Blake Wesley? There's a lot of guys who I don't think are necessarily great defensive prospects either in San Antonio's system.
All right, so Blake Wesley, who you just mentioned, that's my player we'll be talking about.
This is such a deep hipster cut. Now I'm really gonna I need now
it's a first round pick recently.
Yeah, but now I'm gonna I already had when we do the Pistons. I already have a name picked out, and I think I'm just gonna try to pick an even more hipster one just to hit just to get
a competition.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, and I want to.
I'm a draft guy, dude, at heart. I went to New Mexico State games to watch Trevelyan Queen. I do this. I'm living it. So
you should. Gotta, so when are you flying in for the Portsmouth Invitational? We can drive down together from Cleveland. That's my question.
Love to go.
All right, 3.5 hours. We can make a trip out of it. I know a great town.
I thought Portsmouth was in the Northeast. No.
I don't. There's something.
I thought it was
near,
in Rhode Island or something.
No, I think it's in Portsmouth, Ohio.
Oh, okay. You're probably right. If that's the name of the city in a place you live near, then I'm
pretty sure.
All right, Blake Wesley. The statistical case is actually
it's in Virginia.
Not,
it's in Virginia.
Virginia. Okay.
Yeah, we can get easy.
The statistical case is not great for Blake Wesley. 99 to 65 assist to turnover last year. He shot well from deep, but that's about it. The dude had astronomically low 2-point figures. He 18% from mid-range, 45% at the rim, but he shot 47% from 2 at Notre Dame. And I think he's a pretty good point of attack defender also. He's probably going to be a one-position defender. He's also on the small side and is not super tall either. But as we were talking about with guys who can kind of create advantages and dish and distribute to Vic, Wesley, I think, has the potential to be that. He can get downhill. He's quick. He's shifty. He can be physical as a defender. He can be physical as a driver, even though he's small. So to me, a lot of this season, by them not getting a great point guard, is Branham or Wesley. They want one of them to be that guy, or at least see if they can be. And those guys were in summer league playing with Vic and everything. So that's what they're telling us with the way they've built this roster. I kind of see Malachi Branham as a little more of a bench scorer personally. I think he has the mentality of just like, I'm going to get downhill. I'm going to take my mid-range pull-ups. I'm going to do whatever. And I think Wesley has more of the potential to be an actual, maybe not like, a Chris Paul point guard, but like what 2023 needs a point guard to be. Can dribble, can initiate, can defend ones, and can kind of, force rotations from a defense. And I don't know if that all happens this year, but you definitely want to see steps in that direction. Rookie point guards take a while, young point guards take a while, but you got to see a little bit. Otherwise, you have to start thinking about a different plan.
G League stats were pretty interesting for him. I don't know if you looked at these. I can't say I watched his G League games. I'm not even going to try to say I watched Austin Spurs games.
It's okay. You're good. You're in the clear.
Yeah, okay. I will say, if you have a G League team near you, kind of a fun time. Very excited to watch a bunch of Amoni Bates in the G League this year. It's going to be random and weird.
You say that now, and you're going to watch half of one game. Let's be honest.
Here's the
you're
problem.
You're going to watch all 82 Cavs games and a bunch of other NBA for this show, and then you're going to catch G League for Canton.
It's Cleveland, and Brendan, I can walk to the arena now. Is the problem?
Oh, they're in Cleveland now. Okay, but still, yeah, you're not.
I could ride my bike there. Couple.
I believe that you want to. I don't believe it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. 11 games last year, 29.7 minutes, 20.7 points per game, 43.7% from the field, took 17.9 attempts per game from the field, 37.5% from three, 4.4 attempts per game, got to line 3.2 times, 2.9 assists versus 2.9 turnovers, 3.7 rebounds. Very good shooting number.
He needs to finish, and he needs to turn down his turnovers. That's the thing. Yeah. Those are the two offensively, and then defensively, if he can just keep being a point of attack guy, then great. They don't, he's not going to switch. He's not probably going to hold up in those, at least not early on, but he intrigues me. I think Branham could be good too. I just see Branham as more of a
luxury,
just a bench scorer, just at least right now. He's big, but the way he plays right now doesn't seem conducive to being the starting point guard on a team where he's the third or fourth best guy. Maybe that changes, but
he had his comp coming out of college. I think that I saw a lot that makes some sense to me. Is Karis LeVert, and we understand what Karis LeVert is. That kind of player.
Yeah, Branham is LeVert, Branham. That I get that for sure.
It's innings eating. Has some usage. It can be a little bit hot or cold, but it's not your perfect fit. This team probably, if we were going to talk about what they might spend a draft pick on in a year, I think there's a good case that it's if they get the right lottery pick and the board's a certain way, maybe it's just you take the highest ranked point guard in that class.
Yeah, very easily could be. I thought, if they hadn't won the lottery, we all thought Scoop made sense here, right? So, all right. So I'll turn best lineup over to you. I will let you and the audience know that I'm expecting that this will be our TikTok pullout for these season preview shows, so I'm going to try to rapid fire mine off quick, but you can guide us through yours first.
I will do the same to ostensibly get us going on TikTok stuff. We should announce later what we've added to our TikTok, but I digress. All right, here's my lineup. Campaign at point guard. I just pick the veteran they have on the roster to keep the ship running on time. I'm not saying this is sexy, but I think Campaign was pretty good for the Suns and what they needed him to do. I think he's more than capable just to run the ship here and do what they need him to do. You get then to Vassell. We talked about him. Keldon Johnson, I think, is going to be your main defender in a lot of ways and is just a good, competent NBA player. Jeremy Sohan, we haven't talked about, could have put him as player we'll be talking about at the end of the season. He was. I thought that's where you were going to go instead of Blake Wesley. Another really good player. I know I'm skewing small here, but I really like him, and I want to put all these guys on the floor together. And then you have Victor Wembanyama at the 5. Again, I understand there's physicality concerns, but I think the lineups where we see Wembanyama at the 5 are going to be fascinating, and I think these lineups are going to have so much modern stuff and skill in them that I think they're going to whip. They're absolutely going to be fun and effective, even if there are some real lumps to be taken here.
All right. My best lineup for the 2023-24 San Antonio Spurs. Trey Jones, steady, can get to his floater game, distributes, nothing sexy, not that great, but serviceable. Devin Vassell, who I think is going to take a huge step forward. We talked about him. He's a killer shooter, can create off the bounce, defensively coming along. The best lineups for bad teams have shooting on them. So I went Doug McDermott at the 3. Still on this team. Maybe people forgot that. Dude can shoot, has size, has been in the league. Zach Collins, I want a little bit of support next to Vic. I want a little bit of size. I think his distribution and playmaking and floor spacing last year for them was pretty important. He's big, if nothing else. Defensively can at least stand around the basket and not make Vic's life so painful. And then, as I've said his name now multiple times, Victor Wembanyama will be on this lineup as well. They need rim protection. They need finishing. They need size. He's going to be out there if he's healthy and Pop lets him play. That's my 5. Shooting, size, veterans, has it all.
I think you're probably right. I just answered this question as fun.
Well, let's talk real quick. We'll get to best case, worst case, and over-under because those are pretty quick to close things out. But 2 guys we haven't talked about who just came up in your lineup. I'm not a Keldon Johnson guy.
I am not a Keldon Johnson guy if you're going to tell me this guy is like a future all-star kind of guy. But if you told me that he was like on a team that won a lot of playoff games because he gives you defense and is switchable, I don't think
he gives you defense.
I look, this might just be like a blind spot for me, but I just kind of, maybe it's that gold medal rub for him because he does have a gold medal.
The guy's like 6'6" and is not a great athlete. I'm not positive what he does defensively. And offensively, he can be a good shooter, I think. But I think his tendencies skew toward give me the ball a little bit more than I would like. And again, that was the case with all these Spurs players last year. Every single player on this roster you could have said that about, outside of like Keita Bates-Diop or somebody who, But for the most part, they were just playing, pretty shapeless basketball. So I don't want to hold that against him too much. But anyway, to stop the rant, I just do think like he's theoretically 3-and-D, but plays like he kind of wants to be Tobias Harris.
It's tough. Yeah, you might be right. I still, I guess, just have some belief and like what I see when I watch. So I'm gonna just hold some optimism, and I just have like I have a thing for having. I am oftentimes like a little late on seeing some of the flaws on this type of player. And certainly like his 3-point percentage drop last year from a really good year the year before is concerning. But I guess I'm holding fast a little bit on my Keldon Johnson
he might be
stock.
like old Royce O'Neal, like what Royce O'Neal is now, where he's not actually that great defensively, but he just gets up a lot of threes, makes a decent amount, can kind of do something with the ball in his hands. That might be what Keldon Johnson is. But that guy's, whatever. I don't want to be too negative because he's young, but he has to change how he plays too, I think would be the way that I would put it. Jeremy Sohan is the other one. I'm not going to be positive or negative. I just have no fucking idea what this guy is. I have zero clue what he is as a basketball player.
But you want to find out, right?
Best form.
But you want to find out is the thing. I think like there's enough on film. I think more than anything else, more than like what the numbers tell you or anything, he to me is like the ultimate, like if you watch this dude, you understand there's something kind of interesting and weird here. And I really just want to see what it ends up looking like.
Of course. I think he's really talented. He plays very hard.
Yes.
He is also a player, and this is true of a lot of young players, and I think Vic will help them start to be able to understand. That's why I think having Pirtle last year was not bad for them. And I think they should have traded him, but I think having him in place was smart.
Well, you could have got a 1 million
young players defensively without structure. If you just have no rim protection, no point of attack defense, and you're just like, all right, guys, roll it out, like you have no idea what anybody is. So I think Vic will help that too. But Sohan to me is very theoretical on defense. I'm not quite sure what he is because I don't think he's big enough to be some sort of rim protector. He's switchable. He probably can switch 1 through 4, but is he big enough to guard like, LeBron or whatever version of LeBron comes along, Luka in the future? I don't know. I don't know if he's big enough and strong enough to do that. So really to me, like his kind of like grab and go game offensively and some of that stuff is what he does that helps teams the most. Like ball movement, kind of pressure on the defense, but he's not really a threat to score all the time. And it's weird. He is a ball of clay for sure. It's a hard player to know even it's not going to be hard for Greg Popovich, but it's hard for me to know even what lineup context makes the most sense for him. I'm just see what he does. I don't know. You know?
I just want to find out. And that to me, I might answer best lineup more, at least with some of these teams lower on the lower end. I might just skew more fun and we learn things more than this is their best thing for winning. Because
I think highest upside lineup, you could have a case, right? The ones that look the best, even though the stats might not show it. I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Best case, worst case. Can I start with best case, Brendan?
Sure.
I think this season's just all about
my dog is making an appearance. He wants to have an opinion about best case too. He's begging to go out. See him?
What a king! What a king!
All right.
Is it a king or a queen? I don't know the gender
king.
of your dog.
It is a gentleman.
What is your dog's name?
Dingo.
I love that so much.
As the YouTube audience can see, the ears are the reason the name.
You're also just big Australian basketball fan.
Yeah, I'm a big Josh Giddey guy, as we talked about. So
yeah,
this is an ode.
You just really into Delhi, almost killing himself by drinking coffee.
I think Josh Giddey was. I don't know how they do school over there in 6th grade when my dog was born. So probably not an ode to him. That'd be kind of a weird thing to do. I'm just really into this 6th grader.
Just Basketball After Dark is actually just going to be Brendan and I learning how they do school in Australia.
Okay, be careful because I was talking about young people and you said After Dark, so let's move. Let's keep it moving. Best case scenario for the Spurs.
Okay, you did that, not me.
Just trying to clear the air that's not what we're doing.
Okay. All right, best case, worst case. So best case, well, just best case specifically. I don't really care necessarily. I think the best case for them is that they understand what is going to that they are who drives winning on this team, and that Victor Wembanyama is part of that. I don't necessarily think the best case is set on number of wins, on being in the play-in race necessarily. Although I think that would help. I think what you want to avoid is what happened with the Pistons last year, which is where you get to March and it feels soulless and dead. I think the worst thing that could happen for this is that there's no energy by the time the All-Star break comes and goes. To me, if you can get the later you can get in the season, and guys are still fighting, competing, and you're building something, and you're learning value, you're getting valuable data points, you're getting good film, you're getting good on-court experience. That's all this is. The best case is that lasts as long as possible. And if you happen to be fighting for be on the fringe and not eliminated from the play-in tournament until March 20th, then God bless. That's a great outcome. But I think the longer they can fight, the better the season goes for them.
Best case I had, similar to what you're saying. Well said. Vic makes an impact on both ends right away. The young guards play more efficiently, and they push for a play-in spot.
Yeah.
I think Wesley and Branham, a lot is riding on them this year. If they're better than expected and take a step forward, the team will be respectable.
Yeah.
Worst case, I had Branham, Wesley, and Sohan are still negative players as they continue to develop, and they have top 3 lottery odds once again.
Yep, same. I think if you come away from this year and you don't feel good about anybody besides Vassell and Wembanyama, then I think you're in a bad spot.
You know how well we did? We didn't say Wemby once. Neither of us slipped into it. We're just instituting a culture here.
You've broken it out of me.
Well, we don't want to sound like children or babies.
Brendan, I'm not even kidding you. When Victor Wembanyama comes up in conversation in my real life, because it just comes up sometimes because whatever. I have said Wemby, and then I correct myself.
Good. And you should.
All right, over
Sounds
under
like a
29.
cartoon character when you say it that way. All right, under 29.5 for me. Last year, they had the point differential of a 19-win team.
Yeah.
They didn't upgrade a ball handler. They didn't add any more size, really. They decided this will be another developmental season. They're telling us they're going to lose. I'm going to believe them. They also will rotate players and rest a lot of players. Nobody on this team last season played more than 68 games. So they will intentionally sit their good players, which will take away wins as well. So I don't even think they get close.
I go under as well, and I think that kind of puts them in a weird spot as far as competing for the play-in. The Thunder were the 10th seed in the West last year with 40 wins.
Yeah, they're not going to...
If we're talking about
things go according to what we think, I don't think they're going to push for the play-in.
No, and I think that could make March and April kind of tough. But we can get there, I guess, when we get there. And I think we'll see, and of course, you just, again, I think if this might feel like like you could have maybe 25 wins this year and get good odds still and still feel coming away okay. I think there's a way you could
you mentioned the Pistons, like that got ugly because Cade was hurt. As long as they're healthy, even if they lose, this season will have a lot of value. I mean, Vic will be a lot better by March than he is in October, right?
Yeah, you would. I think we are gonna. I think there is a high likelihood he's one of the few rookies that actually like really contributes to winning, and like you pair that with guys that are going to get to learn on the fly, and I think you end up in the middle of kind of the best case, worst case. I think is the pragmatic outcome for the Spurs.
Yeah, I'm fascinated. Way too early to talk about next year's draft, but whatever their roster starts to shape up like, this draft for them will kind of be the last piece, hopefully, right? Like it's kind of the last time they're deep in the lottery, the last time they have a really, really bad season, and they need to kind of think about position and fit, not just talent and everything. So where they land in the lottery and who they end up targeting is going to be subtly pretty interesting. Not a great draft, but we'll see.